Welcome to Tuesday's Tips from So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and there are so many different ways to store your bobbin. Here are a few that I have tried in the past, and I'll share with you my favorites. When I first started sewing, of course, I had my bobbins just thrown in a box or a drawer. Then I started with this type of a container, which still to this day I would think would be one of my favorite. I liked it because I could always see what was in the container, and it fit a lot of bobbins. You can also get them in a little bit of a smaller version, and I like these for traveling, and that way I could fill up all of my bobbins that I need at the same time. It closes and it stays closed, so I could take it with me wherever I go. This is an old but good system. There are many more different systems. You can buy all sorts of ends that puts the bobbin onto the spool of thread. This style almost looks like a closed chopstick, and this end will close up, and it is very flexible, which is great because it will fit inside of many different size spools of thread, and it's going to be able to keep the bobbin on. So you're going to take the end, put your bobbin in, then it will fit on top of a spool of thread. It also fits on large spools of threads. Because of that different springy size, it fits great into many, many different sizes. Bobbin pins also work great. With the bobbin pin, you have a little small end, and that will fit inside of your spool of thread. And again, it fits in many different sizes, and your bobbin flips right on top. And because this end squeezes tight, you can fit different size bobbins on. The golf tees work great if you have thread that's stored in a container upright. So you can take your bobbins and put them right over top of your spool of thread. So it won't matter what size. The advantage with the pins is you can add more than one onto the end. However, when you do pick them up, you're going to have to keep in mind that they will move. But it works great if you have them all in a box or a container. Elastics also work out great. You're going to be able to take one end of the elastic, put it into any size bobbin. When you have that elastic out, you're going to put one end of the elastic over the other, pull it tight, and then you'll be able to just take that and stick it right onto the spool of thread. This is really nice because it accomplishes a couple of things at one time. The first thing, of course, is keeping the bobbin and the thread together. The second is it helps that thread not unwind from the bobbin, and it also helps the thread on the spool not unwind. So this works great if you're storing it in a container or if you're storing it on a spool rack, because that bobbin is always going to be there. If you have a spool rack, you can take straws and cut straws and put them into the spool rack and cut them to the size you need, and then you're going to be able to put a bobbin on there. However, you will have to make sure that you get the straw that's going to fit right over top of one of those pins. Once you put that straw over top of that pin, you're going to be able to cut the straw any size you want, so it will accommodate the short threads or the taller threads. Then you'll be able to leave room for your bobbin. These little baby elastics also work great. You could just place them right around that bobbin, and it's going to keep the tail ends tucked inside. If the spool is clear, you're going to be able to see the color of the thread. If the spool is not, then I would recommend using an elastic approximately the color inside. And those elastics usually come in a bag with lots of different colors. I love to use these little baggies when I have specialty threads. For example, this is a fusible thread. So I'm not going to want to put this thread on a thread rack or anywhere else. I keep it right in the bag so that I don't mistake this white for a regular white thread. And I keep the bobbin inside so I don't mistake the bobbin for regular thread. So if you have a specialty thread, this is a great thing to do. That way you know exactly what it is. And you can keep all the information you need on your specialty thread right here together. I also love these donuts. What's great about them is you can get them in 2 different sizes. So this is a small one, which will fit most standard size bobbins. But I have a Bernina and it has a very large bobbin. So I'm able to get a large donut to keep those bobbins. I love this donut because the threads really don't unravel. They pretty much stay there. I will wrap the thread around my bobbin first and then put it in. If you don't, you will end up having those long threads, which is fine. You can always trim it off if it bothers you. What's great about these donuts, you can often get a pin cushion which is magnetic that goes inside. And because I have a sewing room that's set up that my machine is out all the time, this is the system that I have right beside my sewing machine. What I like about it is I can change those bobbins often, and I do. And I have a little cup stuck right inside of that donut. With that little cup, I'm able just to throw some little odds and sods that I need, and I can place the sewing machine needle package that I'm using right in the cup, so I know what machine needle I'm using at the moment. I keep my machine needles separate, but the one package I'm using, I keep right here so I know what is in my machine. So this sort of serves as a dual purpose. If I'm using a certain tool, I can put it inside and it stays right beside my machine. There are so many different ways to store your bobbins, and these are just a few of my favorites. Thank you for joining me today on Tuesday's Tips. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.